Thank you so much for being here today at the virtual WISP Summit. Let's get started. Today, my topic is you, WISPs, the heroes of COVID-19. I'm Claude Aiken, President and CEO of WISPA, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today. Even though I wish this was in person and that we were able to chat and have a drink together, that will have to wait at least until WISPApalooza. So I'd like to say thanks to Preseam for organizing this event, to the many panelists, participants, and sponsors who are dedicated to making this a success. You know, something that I often do before stepping out on stage, even a virtual stage like this one, is take a deep breath. Same thing an Olympic sprinter does, crouched before the starting gun sounds, quarterback before that first snap in the Super Bowl. You know, now I'm no Olympian, and I suspect very few of you are as well, but it is something each of us does before a big moment. But taking a breath, breathing, has been a tragically difficult for the past few months in our nation and our world. COVID-19 has tragically killed over 130,000 Americans, robbing them of breath by attacking their lungs. It remains a threat to our collective breath as a nation. In another vein, we've seen protesters and rioters yelling, "I can't breathe," repeating the words of George Floyd before he died at the hands of Minneapolis police officers, sparking nationwide rage. We've been a people sapped of air, angry, stressed, pushed to our maximum, barely able to cope with a fraught national and international issues, as well as the chaos in our own homes and businesses. I know, I've been there, juggling 3 kids whom my wife and I have had to homeschool these past months. I've often had to tell my kids who are trying to grapple with life as it shouldn't be. When they're stressed and angry at me for telling them they can't do this or that, to take a deep breath before things get out of control. At WISPA, we've had to take a breath too. The cancellation of WISP America, despite the donations of heroes that are keeping WISPA afloat right now, has weighed heavily on the organization. We keep fighting for our industry and try to provide you with the tools you need to survive and thrive, but we need your support now more than ever to keep that up. So, like in any moment of tremendous magnitude, we take a breath, steeling ourselves, resolving to succeed, to win, to do what we need to do. It's what you did before getting into the WISP business. You took a breath, then put your life savings on the line, took the plunge, and started a WISP. Now, I know that all founding stories are different. Some of you had a computer business that you leveraged into a WISP. Some were fortunate enough to get outside capital. Some of you just saw what other WISPs were doing and decided to get into the game for yourself. Either way, you took a breath and plunged in. And I am so glad you did, because whenever America finds itself ravaged by natural disaster, WISPs step up and stand out. WISPs were there when Hurricane Katrina hit, and the late Mac Dearman was on the ground coordinating a robust response while FEMA was silent, connecting folks left without by the winds and the waters. WISPs were there when Hurricanes Irma and Maria ravaged Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and folks like Broadband VI and Aeronet were some of the first ones back up after the storm. And I'll always remember the video of Hurricane Dorian coming in over the Frying Pan Tower, 34 miles off the coast of North Carolina. 100-mile-an-hour plus winds battered the radio, making a 60-mile shot to the tower on land. And that connection only went down when the electronics feeding the tower flooded. We have yet to find the limits of what WISPs can accomplish. And this pandemic is no different. None of us planned to find ourselves in the moment that we're in now. The pandemic has hastened trends towards working and learning from home that would have taken decades to accomplish. From talking to many of you over the course of the past few months, business has been booming, and you've had to make sacrifices to build to new areas, to solve problems brought to you by local school districts so that kids can learn from home, to hook up that family way outside of town where both parents work from home. The work you've been doing is heroic, and I commend you for it. Many of you have stood up special programs to help keep kids and teachers online. Spits with Spots provided free service to kids and teachers in the Alaskan Kenai Peninsula to keep them online. ATC Communications in Arapahoe, Nebraska did the same. Triad Wireless in Phoenix, Arizona stood up a low-cost program to keep kids connected and learning. Rural Texas Broadband in Parasol, Texas offered free install and free service for 2 months for students to allow them to do their online classwork. Many of you stood up free Wi-Fi hotspots for folks who you couldn't connect. Byhalia.net in Ohio and World Wireless in Arkansas are just a couple of examples of the folks who have set up these free Wi-Fi at their local public school so that kids in their rural area with limited or no internet can get assignments done via drive-up Wi-Fi. Even a company like KTEX Communications, a startup WISP with only a handful of customers, set up free Wi-Fi for the community they serve. Many of you provided high-speed and critical connectivity to healthcare institutions. BPS Networks in Bernie, Missouri, worked quickly to set up a dedicated high-speed link for the local hospital's COVID-19 pre-screening tents. Many of you took the FCC's Keeping Americans Connected pledge, promising not to disconnect or charge late fees for the millions of Americans who found themselves without work as a result of the pandemic. Many more of you did exactly what the pledge asked, even though you didn't sign up for it, at significant cost to your company's bottom line. WISP after WISP after WISP stood up to help their community. Some of you have had to overcome COVID-19 itself. Our friends at East Carolina Broadband had 7 out of their 9 employees come down with the virus, but were able to keep customers safe, keep the network running, and bounce back into business after recovery. Who has heard of a broadband company losing the large majority of its staff and still keeping the lights on to serve rural America? I have. They're called a WISP. WISPs play such an integral role in connecting all Americans to the internet, going where no terrestrial provider has gone before, providing better service than incumbents who take billions in government money. WISPs are both a player in the marketplace and the ones who make good on our nation's promise to our unserved and underserved populations. That promise that who you are and where you live shouldn't define whether or not you have internet. I am proud to work for a group like this that has stepped up in so many ways, and WISPA has stepped up alongside you. Some of you needed additional spectrum capacity to stay ahead of demand, and WISPA and our counsel Steve Cran worked with the FCC to get temporary access to 45 megahertz of clean 5.9 gigahertz spectrum. We're hopeful that this will permanently become unlicensed spectrum, available to all of us over the course of the next few months. Thousands of Americans have better access to the internet because of the work we've done on this together. The pandemic meant that transitioning to CBRS compliant gear by April of this year would have been insanely difficult. WISPA successfully petitioned the FCC for more time to transition, giving many of you the breathing room to do so in October. We all know that consumers are continually demanding more and better service, which is why WISPA was so happy to be able to get access to 850 megahertz of 6 gigahertz unlicensed spectrum to alleviate that spectrum crunch. The value of that spectrum to your business and your customers far outstrips any member dues you have ever paid to WISPA, even if you've been a member since our founding in 2004. It's just another way that WISPA is fighting for you to make your businesses better and your lives easier. The pandemic has also shined a light on the need for healthcare and health insurance, which is why we're pleased to be able to support the industry with a product that does just that. Granted, we were working on this offering for a long time, but the time we're able to release the product is critical to our industry. To be clear, I've heard from you that you need more concrete business benefits out of WISPA, and we're putting more exciting stuff in the pipeline for you. We also took the difficult step of putting all of our WISP America content online for free for all to watch. This came at a critical time for CBRS and for RDOF, so that people could inform themselves of what they needed to do to either protect their areas or look for new business opportunities. Not to mention all the things that were outside the normal course of what WISPA does that we burn the midnight oil trying to procure and help our members with. Letters from the Department of Homeland Security granting lockdown WISPs the ability to move about. Education on how to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. Regularly updated resources on COVID response. Working with FEMA to get masks for our members, and much, much more. We're also working to improve our general membership experience. We've made the move to a new website and management system. It's a much more streamlined look and is easier to navigate and use, and allows us to get more relevant information out to you, our members, to policymakers, media, and others. The database too is more organized and integrated, saving us time. It's still being tweaked, and your suggestions have made it better, but it's a significant leap over the past system, and we hope you use it to its fullest extent. Late last year, we also introduced a new perks plan called Amenity, which provides WISPA members with exclusive perks and savings from everything from pizza to the zoo. It's a great member benefit that I've used myself. It's a virtual discount club that your family and business can enjoy from the ease and convenience of your smartphone. And if what I told you doesn't make clear, let me tell you clearly. WISPA is here for you in the good times and tough. Let us know what you need, and we will do our level best to get it for you. One area that we've been hard at work on is advocating on your behalf, and I'd like to give a brief update there. Over the past couple years, we've embarked on a grand experiment. Years ago, we used to be the folks who pulled no punches in DC. We called out our competitors who weren't performing, people who didn't agree with us, and much, much more. It felt good to tell people how wrong they were and how right we were. But we've changed how we've operated to be more constructive in our engagement. And while it sometimes might look like we're pulling punches, it means we're accomplishing more. We've had more spectrum allocated for WISPs, more government programs take WISPs into account, and more people consult WISPA on critical industry matters. WISPA has done this because government is becoming a bigger part of how we operate. With our wireless-driven economy, limited spectrum means there's more demand and supply. I'm proud that we've built our businesses from the ground up, providing better service than many who are getting billions in handouts. But recognizing this new normal, the board beefed up WISPA's government team because dealing with Washington, being at the table, means we have a better chance of shaping policy instead of being run over by it. Over the past 2 years, we've staffed up with experts on policy and government affairs. We've placed thousands of calls and emails, attended hundreds of meetings with legislators, policymakers, agency officials, staff, allies, submitted nearly 100 agency filings and letters, held a congressional briefing, a National Press Club event, participated in the drafting at least 20 bills. worked to shape numerous FCC proposals, conducted 4 major congressional and FCC action alerts, doubled our web traffic, held 15 informational webinars, and got hundreds of press hits. To underscore this, we've had more regulatory and legislative wins in the recent past than we have ever had before. And this has played no small part in the industry's growth. By the end of 2020, our industry will have pumped approximately $4.4 billion directly into the economy, creating a nearly $10 billion effect on the US GDP. We have 6 million Americans served. This number will only increase. We are filling a gap ignored by legacy providers in rural America and beyond, quickly, cost-effectively, and now, meeting the important national objective of bringing broadband to all, no matter where they live. Over the years, Part 15, once our association's name, has become immeasurably more complex since the days when it was simply considered the junk band. It's become big business. Unlicensed technologies contribute $525 billion to the US economy. And in 2017, and they're projected to contribute more than $800 billion by the end of this year. But Part 15 is getting maxed out. The mobile industry has or will soon have over 1,500 megahertz of exclusively licensed sub-6 gigahertz spectrum for its use. Compare this with our 300 or so megahertz of sub-6 gigahertz unlicensed spectrum to serve our customers, spectrum which the mobile industry can freely access too, and you get the picture. The subsidized model is also on the rise again. Legacy companies that are built around the model of receiving government subsidies have become more vocal about the need to have even more subsidies, but not for fixed wireless, only for fiber. Needless to say, we're up against formidable adversaries. Our advocacy budget is just 2% of theirs. 0.2% of theirs. We're a David to their Goliath. If you want to learn more about how we can shift that, go to wisppac.org. That's WISPPAC.org. To be clear, we've not been the regulated providers. It isn't in our DNA to ask government regulators permission to improve. We don't say, hey, Uncle Sam, can I go and build out that market ignored by that public company or that billion-dollar co-op? No, we just do it and build. For a number of years, our government interaction in our businesses has been growing. Now, for better or for worse, it's an integral consideration for our business. So instead of merely juggling the tasks of running your business, installing new CPEs, staying on top of market trends and technology, competing, making your customers happy, finding new customers, keeping your present workers happy, attracting new talent so you can grow, looking for capital, managing debt, paying your local, state, and federal taxes, serving the community, and bridging the digital divide, little things like that. Well, on top of all that, you have to deal with an ever-expanding plate of rules, regulations, and yes, government-imposed hurdles just to keep your head above water. Needless to say, our relationship with Uncle Sam has been complicated. And it's likely about to get more complicated. You've probably seen WISPA saying some things and supporting some things that are a little bit outside of our comfort zone. Adopting language around 5G and talking more about subsidies. And I'm here to tell you we'll likely have more of that. Part of the problem with being a small voice with small dollars is that we can't set the national conversation on an issue. That means we're generally reacting to things that other people are throwing out there, but using our opponent's concepts means we can tweak them to help WISPs. So would you rather have WISPA talk about how 5G is not going to work in rural America, or to say that we are the 5G in rural America and get more unlicensed spectrum? Would you rather have WISPA oppose all subsidies and have them all go to telcos and electric co-ops, or have us support some subsidies and minimize subsidized overbuilding of WISPs? That is the choice we're faced with. WISPs are changing too. More WISPs are doing fiber. More cable companies and fiber providers are getting into fixed wireless. We see that now with the discussion around technology and broadband speeds. One thing the pandemic has shown is how critical broadband has become. You're seeing that with the incredible demand for service. And of course, consumers and government want the best broadband service out there everywhere in the nation. But the critical question then is, what are consumers and what is government willing to pay for? As you well know, consumers are price sensitive. Government has historically been as well, but the need of folks to work and learn from home during the pandemic has made it clear that even policymakers who didn't see the need for government intervention in broadband markets are now willing to put their finger on the scale by doling out money. But in some places, only for 100 by 100 megabit service. We're starting to see that in countless bills and state houses across the country, and it's part of our national conversation as well. That's concerning. We need to keep creating room for WISPs to breathe. WISPA has always sought a place for fixed wireless in government policy to make room for you to be understood and to grow. And we will continue to do so, but we need your help. Of course, signing up to help us advocate in DC or organizing WISPs in your state is awesome and helpful. Contributing financially to WISPA or to the WISPA PAC makes a huge difference. But since everyone is slammed and cash-strapped, I wanted to talk about a few little things that you can do while you sit and listen to the panels today that can make a huge difference in our effectiveness. First off, join WISPA. We are stronger when we are together. And for the first time in our history, we have over 1,000 members. Help take us to the next level. Tell your friends about the great work we're doing. There's helpful information in the last free WISPA newsletter about why you should join. And after you join, make sure your company information is up to date in your membership profile. This includes accurate employee information and the zip codes where you provide service. That information is critical for us to be able to serve you better. Third, sign up for our reports and newsletters to make sure you get all the up-to-date content that impacts your business. This includes our WISPA Smart Brief, WISPA newsletter, webinar updates, and more. And finally, tell us your stories. If you have a cool deployment that you're proud of, a unique customer that is wild about your service, take a couple pictures and drop us a few sentences about what's going on. One of the things I love about WISPA is our platform to tell your amazing stories to the nation and to the world. Keep them coming. You know, our nation has had the wind knocked out of us as of late, but WISPs are key to holding us together, to providing opportunity for all, and for lifting us up to new heights. While we face major policy hurdles, and major hurdles in general, at the end of the day, I'm not scared. Of course, we face significant odds in policy, business, competition, but WISPs have always adapted, grown, and responded when it looks like things are dire. We've risen to the challenge. A number of you pivoted into wireless when the computer repair business started to decline. Many more pivoted into wireless when the resale market collapsed and it became difficult for a non-facilities-based competitor to compete. Even now, I see WISPs adapting to the particular needs of their market by running fiber, by providing private LTE solutions, by dabbling in the IoT market. WISPA is right there with you to write the next chapter of the WISP industry together. Let's take a breath and dive in. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time listening in today to this presentation and to the summit today. And remember to enter the code WELCOME in the keynote challenge to play to win today. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is on the slides, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again to Preseam, to our sponsors, and to everybody who is going to be participating in the event today. Enjoy yourselves, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you for tuning into this session at the WISP Virtual Summit, proudly presented by Preseam. Preseam is a one-of-a-kind networking solution developed exclusively for WISPs that helps to find and fix quality of experience issues across towers, access points, and subscribers. To learn more, visit preseam.com today.